Welcome to the Mindset Mentor. Each episode is a journey into the minds of successful business leaders and trailblazers, offering you a treasure trove of mentorship and wisdom, where every story inspires action and every conversation ignites change. Now, here is your navigator through the intricate world of business acumen and entrepreneurial spirit, Victor Gonzalez.
All right, welcome to the Mindset Mentor. On this episode, I have an incredible guest, Drewbie Wilson, aka the Meme Lord. If you guys haven't seen him, please go follow him on Facebook. Go send him a friend request because this is going to be a great episode. Drewbie, thanks for hopping on the episode, man. I appreciate you so much for hopping on here. Just to start, for anyone who might not know who you are, can you give us a little background on you, kind of where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, Victor, thank you for the opportunity. To the listener, thank you for hanging out and spending some time with us. One thing you're going to hear from me a lot throughout this episode is how valuable your time is. And so if you're here with us, we just want to thank you for that opportunity. My name is Drewbie Wilson, a.k.a. the Meme Lord. If you can't see this on the screen, I tattooed it across my knuckles. I have been in sales basically my whole life. 2 decades. I've sold just about anything and everything. Grew up in the streets. Ended up not wanting to be dead or in prison. So I got into more legitimate sales, which led me to learning marketing and networking. And ultimately what we've built with the company I have now called The Damn Leads is a system and a process for sustainable success. Victor, and you know this just as well as I do, that when you have the right systems, processes, routines, and then the mindset behind it to be consistent, it's allowed me to build a life to where my family and I actually just sold our big house in Dallas, Texas, bought a 42-foot fifth wheel RV, and we're traveling around the country full time for the next few years. All because we built a system and a process, a routine for our life that allows us to have everything we want. And again, one thing you'll hear from me too along the way is that success is very much a perspective. So my version is going to be a little different than yours, Victor. It's definitely different than the listeners. Maybe some similarities, but what I know is that when you get focused and dialed in, anything is possible if you just call the damn leads. So that's what we're all about.
Absolutely, man. I find it so interesting with you because I feel like there's so much to your story. Just watching you kind of over the last year or so since you've kind of came into my realm, where I've started to notice you. Obviously, met you through Apex, but ever since I've kind of came in and noticed you, and then started following your content and all that, your journey is really, really interesting. And one of the most interesting things that I've kind of appreciated about you is, and this might be a little bit off, but your weight loss journey. Dude, that seems to be such a big part of your growth and your story. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very blessed that currently I'm floating somewhere between, 210, 215 pounds, depending on how many tacos and margaritas we've had. But at one point in my life, I weighed over 315 pounds. I was the husky kid growing up. I always struggled with my weight. It also led to a lot of confidence issues within me personally. And, in my journey, I got big. I was working third shift. I weighed 300 plus pounds. And I made a decision to start making some changes. And this was the first time I started getting healthy. I lost, 60, 70 pounds. Then I quit that job. I became a drug dealer, and I basically just ran around all day doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. So I got down to 215 pounds, but it wasn't a healthy 215. And that's when I met my girlfriend, now wife. And when we started dating, I got comfortable again. Started going out more, started getting, more dinners, late night snacks, the extra drinks at the bar. And then when she, we got married, she got pregnant. few months into that, we were eating Thanksgiving turkey dinners 3-4 nights a week, and I got back up to like 280 pounds or something. So along the way, I've had a lot of this up and down journey with my fitness and my health. And this is why right now I preach the consistency of how important it is, because it's easy to do something for 75 days and then on day 76 go right back to the habits that you had. And why I preach the sustainably successful life, because I've lost 100 pounds, gained 100 pounds, lost 100 pounds. And all throughout this journey, the one thing that I've truly realized is that at my biggest, I was unhappy. At my smallest, when I got down to 183 pounds, I wasn't happy. I didn't like how I looked then either, which is why I've been constantly reminding myself and anyone that I share this journey with that you have to find what your version of success will look like. You may not be able to get down to the goal weight number, but how do you feel? Are you functioning? Can you go out and live the life that you want to live? Because that's how you're truly going to experience happiness, because the number on the scale can be the number on the scale, but ultimately it's how you feel on the inside, and how you look can be a big part of that. But even when you get small, if you were big, or if you were small and get big, you're never going to be 100% satisfied. So it's all in figuring out what you want and being willing to do the work to make it happen.
For sure, man. And just to get a little vulnerable here, the reason why I brought that up and wanted to start with that is because I personally have had kind of my own fluctuations in weight. I came from professional baseball, and I had an injury to my elbow that ended my professional baseball career. And after that, it was like, had surgery, couldn't come back healthy, ended up injuring my shoulder from my elbow, like got into a full 9 to 5, moved into my first apartment with my wife. And ever since then, it's been like slowly ticking up on weight. And I've gone from probably about 165 to at my heaviest, like 203. And then this year, at the beginning of the year, I was like, I need to get this right. And so I've noticed all the differences kind of in not just happiness, but also energy, all that stuff, that helps you focus more on your work from losing the weight. I still have a long way to go for where I want to get to. I'm at like 183 right now, but I was super curious about that, because your weight loss, like, you've documented it, right? So it's like, I wouldn't have brought that up if it wasn't documented already, but I just find that really, really motivating. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Thank you.
Now,
yeah,
what I do want to talk about, oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, I really appreciate that. It's one of those things where I know that sharing that journey, you're not the only one who has had a chance to watch it and live vicariously. And it has inspired and motivated a lot of others to start their own personal journey. And that's why I'm so big on sharing it, right? Why I'm willing to get a little vulnerable and talk about both sides of the coin, because ultimately, if one person hears this episode today and they get a chance to go and make a different decision and take new actions and get a result, it's a butterfly effect, man. It'll affect generations to come, because that one person, hopefully it's you, whoever you are that's listening to this, you're going to go and make a new decision in your life, and it's going to create an entire new opportunity scale, which that's why I love doing this, because our time is very valuable, right? I have a business, I have a family, my time is very valuable. I know yours is the same. And yet we choose to pour into people and share this journey because we know what an impact it can make.
For sure. And I wish more people did that, man, because I know a lot of really, really successful people, like significantly more successful than I am. And they don't share their journey. They don't share all the things that help them get to where they are. They don't share kind of the stuff that's helped make them really successful, whether it's blueprints that they use, SOPs, whether it's just their journey alone. And they just kind of keep it in, and for me, I've always been like, I kind of got forced into like the whole social media, sharing your journey and being out there from a past employer. He had like super bad social anxiety. So it was like, he kind of was like, oh, now I got you, you get to be that person. So for me, I got forced into it when that was never really kind of my style. And now it's like, I've seen what it can do for other people. And I wish more people did that, That's like, it's super important that people can learn from each other. Like, too many people look at other people as competition, and it shouldn't be that way. Like, I'm okay sharing with people in the same network, the same realm, same industry as I am, because like, we're not competing with each other. There's more than enough business for everyone. So cool. I appreciate that. Now, I do want to get into the meme lord tattoo. How did that come about? You and I have shared memes together on some of your posts. Um, Tell me a little bit about how that like kind of became part of your branding, and like, how has it just become what it's become? I mean, you have it tatted on your knuckles. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so the meme lord thing, man, I've always loved memes. I was one of the first kids in my neighborhood to have cable internet, so I've been to the depths of seeing some like messed up stuff. And always part of my journey in online has just been finding the weirdest, craziest things that I can and sending them to my friends. And I think at this point, if you're listening to this, you can go into your phone right now and there's a group chat somewhere filled with memes that if it came out publicly, you would probably have a lot of people asking a lot of different questions about you. And I'm not here to judge you for what you laugh at or what you find interesting. I'm here to remind you that this is the power of memes. And so along the way in my sales journey, I've always been a little different, right? I've had tattoos since I was 16. I've always just kind of been outside the box. And with sales, I know that in order to be different and be outside the box to get someone's attention, you got to be different, right? Like that's just the explanation for it. So when it came time to following up with people, the standard copy paste, hey, I'm just checking in. I wanted to follow up. Did you see the invoice? Are you ready to buy my shit yet? Like these are all very canned responses. And they didn't get a lot of engagement or return responses from it. And one day I got really spicy because I was, had a bunch of deals that I was waiting to close and couldn't get anything going. So I sent one meme out to probably 15 or 20 different people that had gone ghost. And if you're not familiar with the term, it essentially means you had a great conversation. They said they were in, send the invoice, and then they didn't swipe the credit card to pay and then disappeared on you. And you're like, where, like, did you die? What happened? And all of a sudden, this meme, I start getting these responses, ding, ding. And then I had one thing that was like a cha-ching sound when a Stripe payment came through, and it was like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And I was like, holy moly, what's going on? And so I started looking, and it's all these people that I had sent this meme to, and they're paying their invoice. A couple people are responding back like, ha, 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 that's so funny. I've been meaning to follow up with you. I lost your number, stupid excuses that people will give you. And, even a couple that told me to kindly kiss off. And that's okay too, because a no is a fine answer in sales, because it just tells me I don't need to spend any more time here right now, at least in certain situations. We could spiral off on that. But this meme got me a crazy response rate. And I kind of was like, I can't believe this really worked. This is crazy. Thank you, God, first of all. Like, I appreciate you for that. That's beautiful. But I started hitting up a couple friends of mine, and one of them is in real estate. And I'd sent him this meme, and I was like, bro, I sent this meme out, got a whole bunch of people that responded. A bunch of them bought from me. Like, I can't figure out, is it just me or do you think it'll work? And he's kind of crazy like me. So he sent it out to a handful of people, and he hits me up a couple days later, and he's like, well, you're never going to believe this shit, bro. I just got a $1.8 million listing signed contract from the dude that I sent that meme to.
That's huge.
And I don't know, like, if you're not in real estate, the commission on a $1.8 million house is tens of thousands of dollars. It's not small. And so this is where I was like, dude, that's crazy. There's more to this. So I started studying the psychology. I started thinking about where does this actually work, kind of seeing if there was anyone else out there that was like really implementing the strategy. And there wasn't a whole lot. There was a couple people that were using it, but it wasn't at that capacity yet. So I put together a little digital product called Closer Memes. And for $47, I went through what, in my opinion, was the breakdown of how memes work, the psychology behind them, how to create them, where to find the best templates and resources, what areas of your business you could use them in for marketing, sales, follow-up, all that. And you can still buy that course at closermemes.com. And I launched it out. And in the last 3 years since we came out with it, we've helped over 1,200 people that have bought the course. I'm not one to claim credit for someone else's work, but I know that there's hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions that have occurred because people have used memes in their process and marketing after going through the course. And so, selfishly, it's funny to think about how many people's lives that I've been able to help change with memes. And I'm kind of an all-in guy, and personal branding, I think, is really important. That's something we can talk about with social media too. So I tattooed Meme Lord across my knuckles and went all in on it. And again, man, it's one of those things where I've never seen anyone else that has a course on memes or how to use memes like that. And I've kind of created my own little internet fame for in the sales community for being the meme lord, and people know it. And Victor, you're one of those guys. It's like, oh yeah, you see someone using memes, I tend to be one of the first people you think about because that's my brand. I've built that to bring that recognition. And I think that's important for any entrepreneur or small business owner to realize, like, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if you want to build a relationship, especially on social media, the best way that you can do that is be relatable, be genuine. And I personally tend to think memes are a great way to share that journey and tiptoe the line where you can kind of say some things that you wouldn't say specifically, but touch deeply on an emotional level where they're just like, this guy gets it. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, man, because I had something similar. And I wish I would have used a meme instead. But like, I had one of those days where same exact thing that you said, like you've got a bunch of people who've been ghosting you, haven't paid, said they're going to, sitting in my go high level stage of like ready to go. And I put together a template, like an email template in go high level. And it's so funny because this happened just yesterday. And I was just pissed off one day. I'm like, what the fuck, man? These people, like, we've got everything they need. We've gone through everything. They're ready to go. We've had multiple conversations. There's nothing more that can be answered. They're still saying they want to go, but they won't get over the edge. So I put that email together, but I thought I put it as like a draft. And it was just like, it wasn't rude, but it was definitely teetering the line where it's like subject line. So, okay. And then in the body of it, I'm like, so we've spoken. You said you like it. You either do or you don't. I'd love the opportunity to work with you if you're interested, but communication is key, and you haven't communicated back with me. So what are we doing? Let's be respectful of each other. I'd love to work with you. Out of that, I had like 6 appointments scheduled. And I'm like, what is going on? Where are all these appointments coming from out of the blue? Because I thought it was in draft and it actually got sent out. And I'm like, oh my God, it worked. We've got a bunch of appointments today. There's actually one going on with my sales guy right now. So I'm like, man, that I wish I would have used a meme because it wouldn't have came off as direct. It would have been a little bit softer. But I'm definitely going to get that course on memes because you've seen. I've also sent memes back and forth with you. Like I'm a big believer in memes, and I've definitely earned a lot of business on Facebook in posting memes and getting people to kind of interact with it, and then you can provide value and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's gonna be awesome, man. We're gonna get some people to buy that course because I think there's a lot of people who definitely use memes but aren't using it in their business when they should and could. And I think you're a perfect testament to showing that it works, and doing something different, because that's the biggest part, right? Like that's a differentiator. No one's doing that in business, at least not doing it well. So the fact that you're able to create an entire business out of it shows that it does work. And there's other people who believe in it too. So definitely go buy the course. That's going to be awesome. Actually, you know what I'll do? Anyone who's up to this part in the podcast, if you're interested in getting the course, the first 10 people that reach out to me, I'll buy the course for you. Let's do that. I'll get first 10 people that get to this part that want the course, I'll buy it for them. So, all right, let's get on to the next part. So the next part, so we've got Meme Lord. Now we have Call the Damn Leads. How did Call the Damn Leads come about? Because I've been screaming that from the rooftops for years. And as a sales trainer, like, obviously you've built another business out of that, which has been incredible. That is something that just like, I never understood with salespeople, why they won't just call the damn leads. So can you give me a background on that, on how that came about, how you've turned that into a business, and where you see that business going in the future?
Yeah, man, like everything in my life, it's kind of just this weird God moment, I guess. But more than anything, it was a series of events. When I was selling insurance, I was one of the top producers in my market and having some success. And I went to the boss and was like, hey, man, what do I got to do to make more money? Like, I'm making 30, 40 grand a year. I barely graduated high school. I was a drug dealer. Like, I don't expect a lot, but I would love to make six figures. Like, what do I got to do? And the guy, God love him, he's like, hey, man, you just need to be patient and, just go call the leads. And I was like, all right, cool. That's not helping me at all. So as a sales guy, I realized the thing that I needed was more leads to call, because I was calling leads. I was putting in the numbers every single day. Like, I have a process that I use. I have metrics that I look for every day. And I was like, all right, well, how can I get exclusive leads? How can I get better leads, cheaper leads? Like, what do I got to do to get more leads? Well, I needed to do marketing. I needed to control my own marketing. So I went online, found a couple of guys that were teaching marketing, started learning it, had some success. And ultimately what ended up happening is the other agents in the area that saw me doubling my production called and were going, bro, what are you doing? And is it legal? Because you were already the top guy. And now you've like basically doubled your production. You got to be doing something sketchy. And I'm like, no, man, I started getting my own leads. I figured this thing out. I can show you how to do it. They're like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to learn, but I'll pay you to set it up for me. I made 10 grand in one weekend, Victor. I'd never made 10 grand in a month. I made 10 grand in one weekend. And it was like 6 hours worth of work to set these ads up for these people. Crazy. So started a marketing company, got a couple of clients. What I really quickly learned was that it's easy to get leads for people. What's not easy is to get them to actually call and follow up with them. And you're learning about this as well. I know with what you're building and getting people to actually talk to the prospects that are saying they want the thing that they're trying to sell, but they don't want to seem to call and talk to them and sell them the thing. One client in particular, a real estate agent, I got him 100 leads in a month. He wanted a refund. I called them myself, ended up getting signed contract on the property. I'm not in real estate, don't have a license. Did stay at a Holiday Inn Express one time, but I can't say that qualifies me to be a real estate agent necessarily. So I call him back. I'm like, bro, I don't know what the deal is, but all you need to do is call the damn leads. Here's a refund. Please don't ever call me again. Have a wonderful day. And I went back to my marketer buddies and I was bitching and complaining about having to give a refund. And we all just agreed, if people would just call the damn leads, they would be more successful. And I kind of laughed about it. And then I was like going through this process in life and business where I was learning about trademarking and how important it was. And I just laughed and I was like, well, man, I'm going to trademark that phrase and put it on a t-shirt and sell it to other marketing companies, because this shit's hilarious. And if you're in sales and you see it, you just know. So that's what I did 3 years ago. I trademarked it, put it on a t-shirt, built a Shopify store, and it sat on the back burner as a funny, silly idea for 3 years in an incubator before I went all in on it about 6 months ago. About 7-8 months ago now. It was in September last year. I decided I really want to push this. There's more to this brand, and I'm being called to really build something with it. So we launched it out. We're selling keychains, wristbands. I wrote a book, Call the Damn Leads, to share like different systems and processes, because ultimately this is what I know. If people will just pick up the phone and have conversations with other people, whether it's calls, texts, strategic emails, sending DM messages, whatever, if you're just actively trying to have a conversation with someone, there's a good chance you're going to be more successful in the end. So my whole motto in life now is just call the damn leads, because that'll get you anything that you want in life.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I do a lot of coaching with like sales teams, and trying to get them to call leads is the biggest issue. It's like, you try to set them up for success, because like I'm working with agencies and helping build out their sales team from the inside out. And like, we have live transfers, we have telemarketers on team that transfer them live calls from leads that we have. But it's like, with the time that you have nothing else to do, you need to be outbound dialing. You need to call the damn leads, and it's impossible to get them to do it. It's like, we're trying to figure out ways to like, do we have to start pulling from your commissions in order to get you to just outbound dial? Do we have to set like minimum thresholds? Like, you guys, if you're in sales, your main motivation should be making money. That's what sales is.
So let's talk about a minimum threshold for a second, because not to interrupt you, but I think this is an important metric. One of the things that I've always lived by is 110-2. Yep. This is the only metric you need to think about in sales, right? If you make 100 outbound attempts every day, if you have 10 serious conversations where you're making someone an offer, and you get 2 closed sales, those are the 3 metrics that you're looking for. Now, the secret is you really only need to get like 2 out of 3 in any given workday in order to be very, very successful. The problem is people will go make 100 calls for a couple days in a row, and they'll have some conversations, and then on Friday they close a handful of deals. So Monday they don't make the phone calls anymore because they're like, oh man, I closed some deals last week, I'm good, I can ride on that. And then it's Wednesday and they start kind of following up or calling a couple of leads. And then Friday that week, they only close 1 or 2 deals because they haven't been nurturing those conversations. And then it's like, oh shit, we're 3 weeks into the month and my commission check wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to go hammer down because it's the end of the month. Yep. And there's no consistency. If you're just consistent and say, hey, every single day, these are the metrics I'm going to go for. It's like doing reps in the gym. You're going to set a baseline and there's 0 chance for failure. But most people aren't consistent enough to show up and just do the basics every day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that, and it's also, I feel like it's also just checking that little box to get that little dopamine rush when you make a sale where you're like, oh, I've done what I needed to do and I'm just going to coast it from here. And then they get desperate at the end. You hit that right on the head. And I also teach like the same thing. 110-2. I mean, the numbers just always work out that way. 100 dials, 10 quotes, 2 sales. If you want to be selling 40 items, especially if you're like a captive agency, Allstate, State Farm, whatever, I mean, you're going to be making 10, 12 grand a month just writing 40 households a month, doing those numbers. You don't even have to be good at sales. You just have to put in enough activity, So I never understood it, man. Like, but all right, cool. So you've written Call the Damn Leads, the book, which I have. I need to get through it. I admittedly have not got through it yet because I'm reading another book trying to fix my customer experience. But what made you go the route of writing the book? And then what were some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from writing the book? Because I know you have 2 other books that you've written. So we'll get into writing this book. Like what was your thought process behind it? What was the motivation behind it? And then what would you say are the biggest lessons you took away from writing this specific book?
So this specific book, the biggest thing that I think about here is, as a business owner, training someone to do your job is the most important job you have. And I think from a sales perspective, what's really tricky about training salespeople is that as a professional, you, me, anyone else who's been in the game for a while, you've had 10,000 plus conversations. So you have the experience to understand the nuance, the tonality, how often, when to push and when to let off, and when to, ask certain questions and when not to ask certain questions. Like, you just have experience that a new sales professional does not. And so you can arm them with every script. You can give them every different talk path. You can give them all of the different blueprints to be successful. And yet they still have to go through the process. So what I wanted to do was help fast track that by giving them the why of something, like from a call the damn lead standpoint. Why is it important to do this? And what does it actually mean to call the damn leads? And how can you go and implement that in your day-to-day routine right now? And the biggest thing that people are going to learn when they jump into it is I don't even talk about selling until like almost halfway into the book, because the way you show up in sales, your routine, your confidence, your mindset, that's the thing that when you actually sit down to pick up the phone and call the damn leads, that's the stuff that gives you the ability to go and do the job that you're showing up for. Unfortunately, most people show up at work as a sales professional and they're in their own mind worrying about all the other stuff they got going on, which means that when they get on the phone to service the client, the prospective client, they're not showing up focused and as the best version of themselves, which means that you can't effectively ask the questions and get to know someone on a level deep enough to make them confident in your ability to deliver the result that they want. That's it. And so what I really think is important and what I focus on in this book is getting yourself in position to understand that you are a servant to the individual you are speaking with. And where most people get hung up is they're getting on to sell. And there's a spot for the hardcore closers and those guys that are just like, push, 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 push. I get it. I'm not saying that there isn't. However, if you look at the large number of sales and statistics, only 5% of people on a big picture are going to buy right now, which means that 95% of the individuals who you're speaking with, they're not going to do it. So over a period of 3 to 6 months after that initial conversation, if you build a relationship the right way and you try to help someone versus just taking their money, that close rate goes from 5% all the way up to 50% in some industries, just based on the fact that you're showing up as someone who has empathy and wants to care and provide service for that individual, versus every other sleazy scumbag salesperson they've dealt with that took their money and did not provide the result that they're looking for. And in today's day and age, people's BS meter, their red flag vision is like higher than it's ever been. And it's really easy to go to Google and type someone's name or business in and find out everything you need to know about how their clients feel about them. And so that to me is the difference in sales in 2024 versus back in the day. Is you could be a slick talking, greasy sales guy and get away with it. But right now, people are smarter and more educated than they've ever been, and they have instant access to information. So as a professional, it's our job to simply fill in the gaps for the knowledge that they're missing to help them make an informed decision. And when you're confident in your ability to do that, it really doesn't matter what you're selling, man. You just show up and you help people. The product, the service, that sells itself.
Definitely. That's really, really good. I mean, this is basically serving as a blueprint to salespeople on how to fucking do the job the right way. So I'm definitely going to buy this also for my sales team and make sure that they're on it. All right. So we have Call the Damn Leads, but you've also written Social Media Mastery and Crushing the Day. Of the 3 books that you've written so far, which one has been your favorite and why?
That's a tough question. I'm going to say, honestly, Crushing the Day is my favorite, only because it was the first one that I wrote, and it was something that shares my journey from being drug dealing, high school, bad upbringing, all the excuses that I could have for living a shitty life, and sharing how in learning to be service focused and just caring about helping other people, how that has allowed me to make it through all of the weird situations that I've ever been in my life and continue to find success no matter where I end up. I mean, I've been again, in a number of different industries over the years. I've had opportunities to work with thousands of different business owners and entrepreneurs at this point. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that the way that we show up from the moment we open our eyes until the moment we go to bed at night, how we show up and serve others, how we crush the day before we let all of the other variables that we can't control overwhelm us and we let everything get all nasty. Like, the more we can show up and crush the day before it crushes us, the bigger the impact we get to leave on the future. And that can be for you. It could be for your family, the people that you care about, or you might just be someone who genuinely just wants to see other people succeed. And in showing up with that mentality that you're going to just go out and give it your all every day, I mean, that to me is the epitome of crushing the day. And that's why I love that book so much.
That's awesome, man. That's fucking awesome. And I feel like everyone should write a book about their own lives and their own journey at some point. Like with guests, like you guys, I want to learn about, your journeys and how everyone's journey is different. And there's not one way to be successful. Everyone has a different path to success, so the fact that was your first book is really impressive. So, but when you're actually writing a book, right, your thought process obviously is built around whatever the main objective of that book is. But my question to you is, when you're writing, are you writing your book for yourself, or are you writing it with the thoughts of the reader in mind? And the only reason I ask that is because I'm in the process of writing a book on sales and psychology. And I'm kind of having trouble as I go through the process of writing the book of, do I want to write it how I would read it? Or do I want to write it in a way that I imagine a reader would want to read it? Because everyone reads and intakes information differently. So I'm curious, you've written 3 books. You have a lot more experience with it. How do you go about that process?
So when I look at the book writing process, it's the same as any sales offer, as any landing page. It's who's the audience. So who am I speaking to? And typically when I'm writing a book, I'm writing it to the person I was several years ago. Because the one thing that's important to me is that I'm leading at the level I'm on, not trying to sell someone on an idea that I've never actually accomplished or done or had that experience with. I only want to teach people the things that I've actively done myself. And so the best way to do that is to look at who I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, wherever it was, and basically reverse engineer the process. So it's like, okay, this is the result that you want. For me, it's like, this is my life. If you think the things that I'm doing right now are cool, and this is the kind of life you want to live, where you could maybe lose 100 pounds or walk away from a $500,000 a year salary to build your own business, or live in a camper and travel around the world, like, these are the things that I can speak to personally, and these are the things that I'll coach people on. I'm not going to go and coach you on how to make $1 million a year, because I've not done that yet. I'm going to. I'm well on my way. But those are the things that are important for me. So when you're writing a book, what's the result you want to get them? Where are they? And what's the reverse engineer process? It's just like trying to hit an income goal. Hey, you want to make $100,000 a year? Well, you need to make $50 an hour, 40 hours a week. That's just simple math. You got to make $8,000 a month basically to get there. It's all just math and numbers. Same thing with the book. It's like, who am I writing it for? What's the result that I'm going to get them? And then how am I going to systematically lay out that process for them in a way that's easy to understand? And with the way the world works these days, from an education standpoint, and just from genuinely how we read and how we take in information, I think it's important that the way the book is written, it should speak specifically to the audience of individuals, but for the most part, sales professionals, entrepreneurs, the day-to-day layman, we operate with like a 6th or 7th grade education. Like, the majority of us are just like, we're not the brightest individuals. So you have to write your book in a way that's going to be very plain and easy to understand, almost like microwave directions. So just as a little gift to you when you're writing this, Victor, really be specific about making it easy for them to read through so that it's almost impossible to fail.
Yeah, I don't know where I read this at, but someone said that like the average American reads at like a third grade level. So everything you do on marketing and in writing should be based around a third grader being able to comprehend it, which I thought was super, super interesting. But awesome, man. I appreciate that because I need it, because I've got it down pat. I've got all my topics. I'm halfway through the book, but every time I read through it, I'm like, man, this makes perfect sense to me because I'm writing it, right? So I understand it. But does this make sense to the reader? So I'm just kind of in that fluctuation of like not talking myself out of writing it, but just like rewriting it. I'm probably just going to send it off to someone to get their opinion.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Mentor with Victor Gonzalez. We hope today's episode has fueled your passion for business and personal growth. Remember, the journey of entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep cultivating that winning mindset, seek out mentorship, and join us next time for more insights on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay updated. Until then, keep striving for excellence and make every day count.